our host this evening, correct? Or this morning for you?
It's Abdullah Al-Naim. I'm the host of the session.
Great, thank you so much. So one of the things I'll ask you to do is if folks are joining and they're not the primary person speaking, if you could ensure that they're muted, and if they're not muted, go ahead and do so. And then also if we get to that 15-minute time at the hard stop, then you all are also empowered to mute. Go ahead and do so. And then also if we get to that 15-minute, is that time clear? Is that okay?
Yeah,
At the hard stop,
okay,
then
okay.
you all are also empowered to mute. Go ahead and do so. And then also if we get to that 15-minute, is that time clear? Is that okay?
Yes,
At the hard
it's
stop,
okay.
then you all are also empowered to mute. Okay, he's not there yet. Where is everybody joining us from?
Oh, I'm joining from Melbourne, Australia.
Okay, well, welcome. What time is it where you are?
Here it is 2. Yes, 10 to 2.
Okay, so we have at least 2 Australians with us.
Ashna,
I think over there probably cold. Here we are in our summer.
Okay, yeah, I'm in the Boston area. It's cold, but it's actually unusually warm for this time of year. All the snow has gone.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Kamral Hassan Khan, you were saying something?
in Canberra, Bush capital.
Great. Okay. And did you hear?
Who is the reporter in this program? Who is the reporter? Who will make a press release? Who is this person?
Yeah, so I'm going to be the chair. I'm the chair for the session, but in terms of the rapporteur, there isn't a rapporteur listed. So we have our host Abdul Naim, but we don't have a rapporteur listed.
Okay, all right.
The organizer will be responsible for the rapporteur.
Great.
Okay, so it is important. I mean, if possible, we have a reporter so he can make a news straight away online. Thank you.
Okay.
That is the idea.
Okay, great. And anybody here sharing slides?
Okay, I can tell someone. I can ask someone to do that. But anyway,
I am.
Okay. Mahmoud Farouk, would you mind practicing sharing your slides for a moment? Or just see that you have the share permission?
No, yeah, I have the share permission, but it'll stop the slides that is being shared now if I share mine. It's because they have the background on. So
correct. Okay. All right. We'll just hold off. Hopefully everything is okay. I see that you are co-host, so hopefully it's all right. Okay, so we have about 8 more minutes before we get started. And feel free to chat. But for now, I'll go ahead and mute myself. And if you have any questions, feel free to message me and we'll start promptly in 7 minutes.
so who will start? Who is number 1, number 2?
So we'll go in the order, same order as the program. So it'll be Mahmoud Farouk, Dilruba Shahana, Farina Rezai, Kamral Hassan Khan, so then you, and then last we'll have Muhammad Kabir Hassan.
Wonderful.
Great. And I'll say this all at the start of the program as well, once we formally get started.
My lights are all right? You think face is coming?
Yes.
Good. Which part of Boston you live?
I live
You're teaching there, right?
Yeah, well, I was teaching at Northeastern University on a visiting lectureship. And now I'm working as an assistant editor with a professor there.
Wonderful, wonderful. I've been to Boston many times. 1985, 91, even last year I had been there.
Great.
So are you a scientist or from which order of the?
Yeah, I study political science.
Oh, okay. Political science.
She is the daughter of
Badrujaman Bhai. Yes, I have heard from Kamrul Bhai that Ashna is the daughter of Badrujaman Bhai.
I could not recognize Dilruba. Looked like a Dilruba's younger sister. He became so young.
Kamrul Bhai, he is a person. Whenever you talk to him, he make a comment which makes you laugh. No, not
And
Kamrul
by
bhai.
the
Thank
way,
you very much. Thank you.
Dilruba is a Sahityik. He write a poem, he write, it's a different, but he's the first person possibly as a public speaker. He's coming as a public speaker. She is a mother of 2 sons, but even the 2 children, but even then she's still shy.
Yes, I'm a bit shy. Yes, I'm a bit shy. I agree with you.
Well, I'm grateful that you're
Ashna
here
is
to
not.
share today.
Ashna is straightforward. She's a straightforward girl. We need that person, but we need you for people like you, Dilruba.
Kamrul bhai is very famous. Whenever he saw someone, Kamrul bhai knows him, and he started talking. He very, very social person.
Everyone is history. Everyone is history. Dilruba is history. Every individual history is history of Bangladesh. I think in that way. Everyone is history.
Yes, we feel proud that we part of history of Bangladesh.
Yes, of course. Dilruba has a very nice family. His elder sister was with me. She was singing with me. Her younger daughter, she's a famous student leader. And all famous, great. And her husband, a very quiet person who works under Shahna Dilruba. She's the boss of the house.
It's not true at all. Don't believe Ashna. Don't believe. He's just making it.
Well, Monjit Bashir is a very great singer. We sing together in 1968-69, and we formed an organization called Udichi. It's a very big organization.
Kamrul bhai comes from a family. They have got very, very, progressive point of view, and still his family is in this field. And Kamrul bhai has good voice. He can sing. He can make very attractive slogan.
No, sometimes I get anger. I have anger. Sorry about that sometimes.
No, it's all right, Kamrul bhai. Kamrul bhai, it's all right.
No, I cannot shoot. I cannot at least shout. I release my pain inside, So anyway, time is short, so we make very quick discussion. And sometimes the anger comes out. But I never talk angrily with Dilruba. She's such a beautiful lady and nice, passionate, because I could not. Yesterday, little bit. He called me, I did not respond to his phone 3-4 times. It never happens. It has been rude.
No, it's okay, it's okay. And then I talked to Nilu Appa. Nilu Appa informed me everything. And yes, I also find out the link and I send it to Nilu Appa.
Yeah, it's better.
Yesterday it was, have you been here, Ashna, yesterday? The session, the inauguration of the ICBEN. Yes, I like it, especially, everything was so nice. Every speech, very nice, especially, Professor Rehmas, after so long time, I have seen him. And Lulu Appa, as usual, Sultana Kamal, I like Kamrul bhai. Have you noticed that Lulu Appa যখন বলছিলেন যে আমরা প্রকৃতি থেকে আহরণ করে বাঁচি, আমরা কিন্তু প্রকৃতিকে শোষণ করে বাঁচব না।
So I just wanted to keep an eye on time. It looks like our host notified us that we're going to be broadcast on Facebook Live shortly. So I just wanted to.
How I get the Facebook? Which Facebook I can get? How I can see the Facebook?
In BAPA page, in Bangladesh Poribesh Andolon BAPA page, Facebook page.
Hello.
And so actually, Abdullah Naeem, if it's not too much trouble, if you, in case folks are interested, if you could drop that link in the chat, and then Mr. Kamral Hassan Khan, you can see that there. And so just again to reiterate, we'll be going in the order of the program. So again, we'll have Mahmoud Farouk go first, then Dilruba Shahana, followed by Farina Rizayek, then Kamral Hassan Khan, and Muhammad Kabir Asan. And we'll be very strict on time. So you'll each have 12 minutes. I still don't see my co-chair, so it looks like I will be timing you. And I'll give you a warning at 10 minutes and at time's up. And then we'll do a hard stop at, if you haven't wrapped up already by 15 minutes, that means you'll be cutting into your Q&A time. And by hard stop, I mean that our our host, Abdullah Al Naim, will mute you. And I hopefully, this is to make sure that we have time to reach everybody. So it looks like we're now being broadcast live. So Abdullah Al Naim, if you wouldn't mind muting everybody who isn't one of our speakers yet.
Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
This is just for the clarification how we can share the presentation. You are giving the presenter should share the presentation, or your what is the arrangement?
So each of the presenters will be in charge of sharing their own presentations. And so shortly before you speak, Abdullah Al Naim has has the speaker order. Shortly before you speak, he'll give you host privileges, co-host privileges, I should say. And then you can, do you see the bottom button there, the green button that says share screen?
Okay.
You'll hit share screen and then share your slides that way.
Okay, the one more thing, I'm Farina Ruzaik, but my second author, Mubashira Begum, will present the presentation. Because of my health conditions, today she's doing the presentation.
Okay, great, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can you see you're from which city?
Sorry, hello.
Farana, which city you're from?
Colombo, Sri Lanka, Colombo.
Oh, that's right. I had been to Colombo in 1966.
Okay.
All right. Great. Thank you. All right. I'm going to go ahead.
Very nice.
Sorry. Thank you all for joining. So we are live now. So I'm going to go ahead and get us started. Thank you all for joining again. So today we have a wonderful set of papers here that are focusing all broadly on this theme of economic, legal management issues, civil society, and NGOs. And what I'll go ahead and do is I'll start with Mahmoud Farouk, and I'll ask each of you to go ahead and introduce yourselves. Again, our speaker order is going to be Mahmoud Farouk, Dilruba Shahana, Farina Ruzaik, Kamral Hassan Khan, and then Mohammed Kabir Hassan. So we'll go ahead and have Mahmoud Farouk start us off. Please let us know where you're joining from, and please listen for my time cues. Thanks so much.
Assalamu alaikum. It's my privilege to be here. I'm Mohammed Fakhrul Islam. I'm working as an assistant professor at Stanford University, Bangladesh. I have some issues to face. Please, it will be my privilege if I will have some time or someone else will present instead of me. I will present. It's better to me to present after a while.
Yeah, you are presenting. Which I don't think you're on our list.
Yeah.
So we're gonna. So
I'm
we're gonna
here.
go ahead.
My co-author right now is on. He's Uli Rahman. Please, the host, please make him as a co-host, so as he can share the slide. Uli Rahman, Mr. Uli Rahman, please.
I think that you might be in a.
I've joined. I'm Uli Rahman.
Yeah.
I think you might be in a different session. So I'm actually. Go ahead and message me in the chat and we'll figure it out. So we're going to get started with Mahmoud Farouk for now. Okay?
Yeah.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, it's okay now.
Okay, let me go to slideshow mode. Am I on slideshow mode? Yeah, right. Okay. Hi, Assalamu alaikum. Good evening from Washington, D.C. My name is Mahmoud Farouk. I work for Arizona State University in a science policy think tank in Washington, D.C. called Consortia for Science Policy and Outcomes. My work mainly focuses on answering two particular questions. One is, how can we make science more useful for society? And the other question is, how can we make science and technology policy more democratic? So today I will talk about the democratic part. I will start off by where this morning you all saw Professor and founder of BEN, Dr. Nazrul Islam, talk about the 20 years of BEN. I was actually part of BEN from the very beginning. And this was during the late 1990s when we were looking at the environmental degradation in Bangladesh. We were looking at all these gaps. One was knowledge gap, institutional gap, awareness gap, representation gap, and accountability gap. So in response to that, as we were talking and discussing these gaps, the opportunity came because of internet connectivity. We were able to connect from different parts of the US and then eventually rest of the world. And we were able to organize in terms of different issues on environment. And soon Ben was born in 1998. And after Ben was born, as Dr. Islam mentioned, that it was based on the idea of collaboration between non-resident and resident Bangladeshis. The idea was that it will launch an environmental movement that is self-reliant, that will combine experts and activists, that will be non-partisan, that will focus on consensus building. It will allow individual and organizations to participate, and it will be forward-looking. So results of all of that was as you can recall, in the first ICBEN, there was a Dhaka Declaration, and which basically launched BAPA as a broad-based, self-reliant, accessible, multidimensional environmental movement. And there was some early policy success from getting rid of two-stroke TSE engines and then banning plastic bags and starting the river protection movement and so forth. Then there was also the annual conferences. Each conferences had resolutions, proceedings, and BAPA now has 32 plus local branches, and there's been ancillary activities. But as Dr. Islam pointed out, that now there's some, looking back at the last 20 years, we also see some failures. Failures has been in terms of policies, in terms of implementing policies, enacting rules and laws, failure of also competence. And all of these things basically also pointed to sort of BAPA's concern about failure of influencing the political process to force environmental action. And one important point that Dr. Islam made was that there's a risk of a vicious cycle where you have people, because you are not having success, you get disappointed and the whole movement kind of seems to lose steam. At the same time, Dr. Islam mentioned that there's all these growing political influence of Green parties, the Sunrise Movement in the US, the Green parties in the US, and we heard from the Green Party member in our opening today. And based on that, last year, the BAPA Ben conference looked at 3 options. One is a non-party model, one is a political faction model, and one is a party model. So the conclusion from all of the discussion from that conference was the idea that perhaps BAPA could explore this extended non-party mode. So instead of forming a political party, BAPA can support independent candidates with strong environmental record in parliamentary elections, with the basic idea of converting environmental movement to a mass movement. Now, Nazrul Islam also pointed out the challenges that once you become part of a political movement, or even if you're backing a candidate, you automatically invite political rivalries. And then there's also the problem of ensuring continued environmental policies as after you win. So the question is, was whether to politicize or non-politicize. And I would also like to add to the list of challenges that if you become too political, then the BAPA charter of broad-based, self-reliance, accessible, multidimensional environmental movement will become challenging. And also the question of what could be Ben's role if BAPA moves in that direction. So, because Ben is the one that provides expert knowledge on a voluntary basis in a nonpartisan way. So I would say that perhaps there is another alternative, an alternative that instead of thinking of political terms, can we think about in terms of democratic terms? One idea is that, because I want to say that how does normally, policy forms, we have some, scientific and technical input, but when we cannot solve those problems by scientific and technical, we go to use expert judgment. And that's how we normally make policies. But the message is that, so BAPA Ben has been basically operating in the what I have as the shaded area. But the problem is the challenges that we face are actually challenges that are high decision stakes. You know, people's livelihood, people's basic existential crisis, migration, all of these things, and there's high level of uncertainty involved. So for those kind of problems, this kind of expert and applied model doesn't work. And it doesn't work because, from the literature, we know that when there's high uncertainty and high decision stake, we fall into this special category of problems, which are called post-normal science, where you have uncertain facts, values are in dispute, stakes are high, decisions are urgent. If you want to think of a problem, think of COVID-19 and think of all the challenges we are having, from simple mask wearing to doing vaccinations and so forth. So climate change, geoengineering, all falls into this kind of problem. So where this is the problems that are beyond what a technical solution can address. What we need basically are also societal input. It's because it has to do not only with facts, it also has to deal with values. As we saw this morning's debate between Professor Ainun Nishat and other presenters, about there were different approaches to solving a river flooding problem, but each has this trade-off. And this also has to do with values in terms of who gets flooded, who gets displaced, and so forth. So, all of these things actually require us to involve society. So I'm just going to give you an example of why this kind of approach doesn't work, because with an example in France, as you know, President Macron in France wanted to implement this policy, trying to meet France's commitment by raising gasoline tax. And that basically launched what we now, a very spontaneous movement of people called Yellow Vest movement. And there was call for Macron to resign, but he didn't. Instead, he called for a grand debate in the whole country, a 3-month-long process of national conversation on climate change, public budgeting, taxes, and public sector reform. Out of all of these came, these dialogues actually started quite the skeptics, and Macron himself attended some of them, engaging on live TV and so forth. So at the end, they had 2 million online contributions and thousands of letters and emails to officials and local meetings and so forth. Basically, a whole country having a dialogue on what to do about these issues. And late that year, they launched this Citizen Assembly on Climate, where 150 randomly selected people met for over 7 months with experts and stakeholders, with the charge to come up with how can France reduce its emission by 40% by 2030. And they came out with 40 proposals. I think more than 35 of them were accepted. And similarly, now you can see in Scotland, England, and other are also following France's lead to convene their own citizen assemblies on climate. And Extinction Rebellion has made it one of its 4 core demands. So basically, what this sort of process does, this sort of process of engaging the citizen, it sort of helps us to address what we call public value failure. It allows generally underrepresented population to participate in a systematic and informed way in the policymaking process, where they engage in informed dialogues. The basic idea is basically we create this mid-tier where we're bringing in expert and stakeholders along with the public to frame the issues. And then we are having deliberation, informed dialogue on citizen on the complexities of the issues. And once with the help of those dialogues, we can then extract their views and values, and that ultimately informs the policies that we make. So the whole point is, instead of having experts and stakeholders at the center of all of this, we are putting citizens in the center of this. And I've been working on this type of citizen engagement for over a decade now, and on working with the different US agencies on a variety of issues. I'm not going to elaborate. The basic process of a citizen forum is, as I mentioned, that there are basically 3 dialogues. The first dialogue is with citizen expert stakeholder to see what is our priority, what is our topics, what is the issues we need to resolve. And then we create this forum where we present the scientific fact, the expert values, all the technical details, and people sit around the table and discuss and come up with common ground solutions. And once we have the results, we then share it. One of the idea here is that we feel that there's an assumption of competence of all the participants, that regular people have values to contribute as much as technical and experts people have expertise to contribute. And we believe that intentional, informed, and inclusive deliberation lead to better outcomes.
So about 1 minute left.
Okay, and so with that idea, what can ICBEN do? So I was thinking that, this conference, we are hearing a lot from experts and stakeholders and activists, but what's really missing are the citizens. So what I propose is that maybe next time or in the coming years, we think of a convention of citizens with the idea that local chapters can spend half of the year having mini deliberations, letting the citizens in all the BAPA chapters come up with the topic instead of experts like us trying to decide what should be the topic of discussion. And from that, then experts, we come in and we design a whole program, but not in a way that we are presenting papers, but where people are sitting at tables with a moderator and discussing all the issues. And then from that, we can come up with, instead of having a Dhaka declaration, we can have a citizen declaration on Bangladesh environment, and then we can share these ideas broadly. And this kind of effort will have much broader societal acceptance. So basically, that's the end. I'll stop sharing.
Great, you're just right about at time. Thank you so much. And so I very much appreciate kind of drawing these themes from discussion in the forum yesterday and getting us to think about how we can develop buy-in for different policies from the citizenry, how the citizens themselves can be so important in developing these policies. But I won't take the prerogative for questions myself for now. I'll open it up to the chat. Do we have any questions for Mahmoud Farouk in the chat? I see if not the chat, I see a raised hand from Kamral Hassan Khan. Yes, you can unmute yourself and ask your question. So, Mr. Kamral Hassan Khan, if you are muted at the moment. So I think perhaps we'll come back to you. I saw another question.
Unmute your.
Yeah, yes, I'm done. Okay. Mr. Farouk, thank you very much for your contribution. This was always my my issue, and I wanted to focus that awareing public for science. Now there is a big movement on act on science. It is happening everywhere. You might have seen that. But in Bangladesh, we are talking about, but people are not aware because it is not a philosophy. It is a fact that happening, which based on science. The scientists focused long ago about this. It is going to happen. Nobody believed. Even we did not believe. We did not care about it. But now we have listened to the scientists, and they make it a point that it is happening. Now everybody is telling, yes, it is happening. Even the big leaders, American leaders, or any country, they don't understand that, they don't believe. So it is a very, very important, which Mr. Farouk has mentioned, to raise and build up a movement, public awareness of science, whatever, I have seen there's a many program. I don't have the time to explain all those, but it is very important. Next time we have to engage people. We are talking about, but it is not the real movement. The real movement is from the grassroots, village people. They have to get involved, and they will understand. Thank you very much. And with this, make a point. I think other activities are also present. Please focus the science. We had Dipen Bhattacharya. We in the early 70s. We have a science club. I was a student leader, but I emphasize because until and unless we understand science, we could not understand climate change environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kamal Hassan Khan. I appreciate your emphasis of Mahmoud Farouk's points, but I would really appreciate to use this time for questions. Does anybody have a question that they would like to ask? And so that's all right. I think I have a hand here. Ahmed Hassan, if you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself and asking a question. You are currently muted. So you are unmuted, but we still cannot hear you. If you have trouble, you can also put your question in the chat and I can verbally say it for you.
Well, just 1 second.
Oh, we can hear you now.
You can hear me now? Right, very good.
Yeah.
No, thank you. Mahmoud and I go back a long way. Few quick questions. So first is, as you know, I've come from a very operational background, working with governments on specific policy matters and what to do and how to proceed and so on. So the quick question is, yes, I agree with the point of getting the people involved and building up a mass awareness and consciousness, but it has to be built around specific issues. We cannot expect concrete issues to emerge from such discussions. And there, if I say that if we have to focus on some areas, such as the energy supply and what are the sources of energy supply and how should Bangladesh go about it, given we already have about 10,000 megawatts of excess capacity, and then what are the choices in terms of climate change. The second is, the big question is, waste and sanitation management issues. Third, a very big question, as I've worked in many developing countries, is we don't pay attention to adaptation. The reality is, a country like Bangladesh and many developing countries will have little to do with what happens to the temperature changes. And ultimately, we will be getting the outcome of it. So the big question is, how do we arrange for good adaptation in terms of investment and policy choices? And so my question to you is, should there be more focus on specific policies around which we can build discussion and develop policy changes? And I've suggested some ideas. Thank you.
I'm going to give you just 1 minute to respond if you can, just because we're already over in time, and we can continue the discussion towards the end as well. Thank you.
Yes, that's one approach when you have the expert frame the questions. So we have done these in 8 cities in the US, but we focused on sea level rise, extreme precipitation, drought, and heat, and then each city focused on what their priorities are within those. So, but the challenge here is that the solution sets looks very different in Boston or Minneapolis or Miami. And that's where you need the local stakeholders. You cannot do that from Washington. So same kind of thing is when you, so it should be, then you have local ownership, you have local buy-in, and what this type of processes actually helps you find those common ground solutions that has adaptation to mitigation, how much people are willing to give up and manage retreat. These are very difficult questions, and so the economic trade-off. So yeah, I agree, and but this process actually helps you, and outside of the political process, because you are actually doing this as an honest broker, because you're not trying to dictate the solution. You're trying to engage people to identify the solution set. So
thank you.
And good to see you, Hassan Bhai.
Thank you, Dr. Mahmoud Farouk. All right, so now we'll move on to Dilruba Shahana. So if you wouldn't mind, please just introduce yourself quickly, and then we'll get started. Looking forward to hearing from you. And you have to
Shahana, and I love to, I think everybody here, except the someone else, everybody understand Bangla. So I love to introduce myself and the mic, the talk in Bangla. Ami Dilruba Shahana, ami Melbourne থেকে বলছি। আমি এই মুহূর্তে আমার ফ্রিল্যান্স কাজ করছি, আর আমি জড়িত আইন ও সালিশ কেন্দ্রের সদস্য এখনো, এবং বেনেরও সদস্য। তো যে পছন্দের বিষয়গুলোর মাঝে একটা হচ্ছে আপনার এনভায়রনমেন্ট পলিউশন, আর সবচেয়ে যেটা হচ্ছে যে এনভায়রনমেন্ট পলিউশনে মানুষ কি করছে বা মানুষকে কিভাবে ইনভলভ করা। এইমাত্র মাহমুদ ফারুক, সায়েন্স আমি বুঝি না, কিন্তু ওনার অ্যাপ্রোচটা মনে হয় আমি বুঝেছি যতটুকু বোঝা দরকার। যাই হোক, আমি আমার পড়াটা শুরু করছি। আচ্ছা, এখন একটা কথা খুব চলছে পৃথিবীতে, জলবায়ুর উষ্ণায়ন বা ভূপৃষ্ঠের তাপমাত্রা বৃদ্ধি। এর আওতাধীন যা কিছু আছে, আপনার প্রাণী জগৎ এবং জীবন ধারণের জন্য যা কিছু কাজকর্ম, সবকিছুকে বিপন্ন করে তুলেছে আপনার এই উষ্ণায়ন বা জলবায়ু দূষণ। খুব সোজাভাবে বলতে গেলে পৃথিবীর এই ভূপৃষ্ঠে যা কিছু আছে, পাহাড়, পর্বত, বন, জঙ্গল, সমতল ভূমি, সাগর, সাগরের উপরে যা কিছু বহমান শিলাখণ্ড এবং তার সব প্রাণীকুল, সবাই পরিবেশ দূষণের শিকার। ব্যাপার হলো যে কোথা থেকে এসছে পরিবেশ দূষণটা। আমরা আমাদের সবকিছু ডাটা, সব অভিজ্ঞতা থেকে দেখছি, সব পরিবেশ দূষণের মূলেই আছে মানুষের কর্মকাণ্ড। আজকে থেকে বহু বছর আগে, 100 কি 150 বছর আগে, এই শিল্প বিপ্লবের ফলশ্রুতিতে অজস্র কলকারখানা গড়ে উঠেছে এবং সেই কলকারখানা গড়ে ওঠার ফলে মানুষের কর্মসংস্থান হয়েছে, এতে কোনো সন্দেহ নেই। তার পাশে আরো এসছে মানুষের উন্নতির জন্যই এসছে আপনার এরোপ্লেন, যানবাহন, যা মানুষের যাতায়াত এবং আমাদের পণ্য পরিবহনকে সহজ করে তুলেছে। সবকিছুই মনে হচ্ছে খুব পজিটিভ, খুব ভালো, কিন্তু তার যে একটা অন্যরকম প্রভাব আছে, সেই প্রভাবটা নিয়ে এখন আমরা ভাবছি। এটা হচ্ছে কলকারখানা এবং আপনার যানবাহন সবকিছু যে গ্যাস উদ্গীরণ করছে এবং যাকে আমরা বলি কার্বন এমিশন, সেই কার্বন এমিশন আমাদের পরিবেশকে বিপন্ন করে তুলেছে। সেই বিপন্ন করার মূলে শুধুমাত্র কলকারখানা, যানবাহন থেকে কার্বন এমিশন নয়, কলকারখানা স্থাপনের জন্য আমরা যে বন জঙ্গলকে উজাড় করে দিচ্ছি, নদী ভরাট করছি, সবকিছুর কারণেই পরিবেশ বিপন্ন। এবং এই বিপন্নতা কোথায় এসছে? একটা হচ্ছে প্রাণীকুলের বসবাসের স্থান সংকীর্ণ হয়ে আসছে, আরেকটা হচ্ছে যে অক্সিজেনের কমে যাচ্ছে, উৎসস্থল, অক্সিজেনের উৎসস্থল কমে যাওয়ার ফলে চারদিকে যে পরিবেশ তৈরি হয়েছে, সেই ঋতু পরিবর্তন, শুধু অক্সিজেনের জন্য না, উষ্ণায়নের ফলেই আপনার ঋতু পরিবর্তনের বিরাট পরিবর্তন এসছে। যখন আমার দরকার বৃষ্টি, তখন হচ্ছে না বৃষ্টি। যখন বীজ বুনবে কৃষক, বীজ বুনতে পারছে না, বীজ বুনে শস্য ঘরে তুলতে পারছে না। এবং এই যে পরিবেশ দূষণ, তার মাঝে সবকিছুই তো এর দূষণের শিকার, এবং বাচ্চারা হচ্ছে সবচেয়ে বেশি ভালনারেবল, সবচেয়ে বেশি অসহায়। আচ্ছা, আমার যেটা আমি বলতে চাইছি যে আমরা যখন সুস্থ পরিবেশের কথা বলছি, আমরা যখন স্বাস্থ্যকর পরিবেশ গড়ে তোলার কথা বলছি, তখন আমরা দেখছি আমাদের জ্ঞানী গুণী পণ্ডিত এবং বিজ্ঞানীরা এ নিয়ে কাজ করছেন। শুধু কি তারাই কাজ করবেন? স্বাস্থ্যকর বায়ুতে কি বিজ্ঞানীরাই শ্বাস নেবেন? স্বচ্ছ পানি কি তারাই ব্যবহার করবেন? আসলে তা ঠিক নয়, সবার জন্যই তা। ধরা যাক বস্তিতে একটি বাচ্চা জন্ম নিয়েছে, আবার সেই একই সময়ে একই দিনে আপনার কোন একটা বিত্তশীল আবাসনে একটি বাচ্চা জন্ম নিয়েছে। এখন এই দুই বাচ্চার জন্মের সাথে সাথে তাদের দুজনের প্রাপ্তিটা হয়তো, প্রাপ্তির মাঝে তফাৎ আছে। যে বিত্তশীল পরিবারে জন্ম নিয়েছে তার প্রাপ্তি অনেক বেশি, আর বস্তির রেল লাইনের কিনারে বস্তিতে জন্ম নিয়েছে যে তার প্রাপ্তি কিন্তু খুব সীমিত। কিন্তু দুজন বাচ্চার মাঝে একটা জিনিস একদমই একরকম, দুজনই শ্বাসটি শিখছে, তারা শ্বাস নিচ্ছে দূষিত বাতাসে। কারণ বাতাস আর পরিবেশ এখন আর মানুষের বসবাসের জন্য যে মিনিমাম যে স্ট্যান্ডার্ড থাকার কথা, সেই অবস্থায় নেই। তো দুই বাচ্চাই এখন ওই ইয়ের শিকার। এখন কথা হলো, যখন আমরা বলছি যে আমাদের জলবায়ুকে নিশ্চিত করতে হবে, সুস্থ করতে হবে পরিবেশকে, তখন আমরা কাজের উপরে কাজ ছেড়ে দিচ্ছি বা আমরা তাকিয়ে আছি। যেমন আমাদের এইমাত্র প্রফেসর ফারুক যেটা বললেন যে আসলে বিজ্ঞান কি বলছে, আসলে আপনার নীতি নির্ধারকরা কি করছেন, নীতি বাস্তবায়নকারীরা কি করছেন, সবকিছু তাদের হাতে রইলো, আমরা একদম আলাদা রইলাম। কিন্তু ব্যাপারটা কিন্তু আমরা তা ভাবছি না। আমরা ভাবছি না সবাইকেই সবার অংশগ্রহণ হবে এখানে, রাষ্ট্রযন্ত্র থেকে রাস্তার শিশু, সবাই কোনো না কোনো ভাবে পরিবেশ দূষণে জর্জরিত, তাদের সবাইকে এগিয়ে আসতে হবে। এখন প্রশ্ন উঠতে পারে, শিশু সে কি বুঝে পরিবেশ? তাকে কেন পরিবেশ নিয়ে ব্যাপারে জড়িত করা? অবশ্যই তাকেই জড়িত করতে হবে, কারণ ছোটরাই সবচেয়ে বেশি গ্রহণ করে। তারা অবাক হয়ে তাকিয়ে আছে পৃথিবীর দিকে, যে তারা যা পাবে তাই নেওয়ার জন্য, বা তাদের ভেতরে যে প্রশ্ন, তাদের প্রশ্ন অনেক। এখন কথা হলো যে কেন আমরা বাচ্চাদের দিকে, আমি কেন বাচ্চাদের ব্যাপারটা তুলেছি? আমরা জানি যে কৃষক যখন জমিতে শস্য বুনেন, সেই জমিকে উনি ঝুরঝুরা করে নেন। শক্ত পাথুরে জমিতে শস্য গজাই না। এখন আমি যদি মনে করি যে আমাদের এই পরিবেশ সচেতনতা, পরিবেশের প্রতি শ্রদ্ধাশীল, পরিবেশকে যত্ন নেওয়ার বীজটা কোথায় বুনতে হবে, সে হচ্ছে শিশুরা। শিশুদের মাঝে যদি আমরা ভালো করে এই বীজটা বুনে দিতে পারি, তখনই বোধহয় আমাদের পরবর্তী যে প্রজন্ম, তারা যদি যত্নশীল হয়, তখন বোধহয় কিছু একটা ঘটতে পারে। ঘটবেই বলবো না, ঘটতে পারে। এখন কথা হলো আমরা কিভাবে তাকে বুঝাবো? আমরা যদি বলি যে, একটা উদাহরণ, নিম গাছে হলুদ পাখি। আচ্ছা, আমাদের জন্য নিম গাছটাও দরকার, হলুদ পাখিটাও দরকার। কেন দরকার নিম গাছে হলুদ পাখি? নিম গাছে হলুদ পাখি দরকার এই জন্য যে নিম গাছটা আপাতত দৃষ্টিতে আমাকে ছায়া দেয়, আর পাখিটা ওই গাছে বাস করে। আচ্ছা, তারপরে যখন আমি শিশুটিকে সচেতন করব যে ওই নিম গাছ কিন্তু ছায়াই দেয় না, ও আমাদের জন্য আরো কি দেয়? আমাদের দেয় কার্বন, আমাদের দেয় অক্সিজেন। সেই গাছ আমাদের অক্সিজেন দিচ্ছে, আর গাছে যে পাখিটা আছে, সে ওই পাখি বাঁচবে ওইখানে, ওর বাসা ওইখানে, ও পোকামাকড় খেয়ে আমাদেরকে রক্ষা করবে বিষাক্ত পোকার হাত থেকে। এইভাবে আমরা যদি বাচ্চাদের কাছে আমাদের আবেদনটা পৌঁছে দিই যে কি কেন পরিবেশ দরকার, কি কারণে আমরা চাই পরিবেশ। কারণ চারিদিকে পরিবেশ আজ দূষিত, বা কার্বন ডাই অক্সাইডের পরিমাণ বেড়ে গেছে। আমাদের এই জন্য দরকার গাছপালা। বড় জঙ্গলের কথা তো বলছেই সবাই, নদী বাঁচানোর জন্য আন্দোলন হচ্ছে, কিন্তু ছোট্ট ব্যাপার থেকে যদি শুরু করি, তখন হবে এটা। আজ বাচ্চাদের ব্যাপারে আরো একটা কথা হলো, বাচ্চাদের মন সবকিছুর জন্যই তৈরি। তারা কোনো একটা বিশেষ বিষয়ে স্পেশালিস্ট বা এক্সপার্ট হওয়ার জন্য এই মুহূর্তে ভাবে না। সুতরাং তাদের কাছেই আমাদের আবেদনটা পৌঁছে দিতে হবে। আচ্ছা, এই ব্যাপারে আমরা দেখি যে কি কার্যক্রম এই মুহূর্তে পৃথিবীতে চলছে, বা কি কার্যক্রমে হাত দেওয়া হয়েছে। আমরা দেখতে পাচ্ছি জাতিসংঘের অঙ্গ সংগঠন ইউনেস্কো 1917-তে তারা ওয়ার্ল্ড এনভায়রনমেন্টাল এডুকেশন কংগ্রেসে কয়েকটা বিষয় তুলে ধরেছে। এবং সেটা ছিল আপনার কানাডার ভ্যাঙ্কুভার শহরে। ওখানে তারা 4টা বিষয় বলেছে। প্রথমটা হচ্ছে আপনার ছোটদের পরিবেশ সমস্যা বিষয়ে সচেতন ও বিবেকবান করে তোলা, পরিবেশের যত্ন মঙ্গলের জন্য ছোটদের আগ্রহ ইচ্ছাকে প্রভাবিত করা। আচ্ছা, তারপরে তাদেরকে পরিবেশ সম্বন্ধে জানার ও বুঝার ব্যাপারে সক্ষম করে তোলা, প্রাকৃতিক সম্পদ, প্রাকৃতিক ভূদৃশ্য, বন্যপ্রাণী, জলবায়ু, শক্তি বিষয়ে তাদের ইকোলজিক্যাল জ্ঞান প্রসার করা। তো সব জিনিস এসছে উপর থেকেও আজকাল চিন্তা করা হচ্ছে যে বাচ্চাদের জড়িত করা দরকার। আর একটা জিনিস হচ্ছে, বাচ্চাদের এই সচেতনতাটা শুরু হবে পরিবারে এবং শিক্ষা প্রতিষ্ঠানে। আমরা জানি যে শিক্ষা প্রতিষ্ঠানে যা কিছু বলা হয়, বাচ্চারা কিন্তু এটা খুব মানবে কি মানবে না, কিন্তু ওইটা তার মনে গেঁথে যায়। প্রথম হচ্ছে, আমরা যদি দেখি যে শিক্ষা প্রতিষ্ঠানে বিন রাখা হয়েছে বা ময়লার ঝুড়ি, একটাতে তুমি ফেলবে প্লাস্টিকের ব্যাগ যা থেকে তুমি চিপস বার করে খেয়েছো, আর একটাতে তুমি ফেলবে তোমার কলার খোসা বা আপেল খেয়ে তার বর্জ্য। আচ্ছা, ওই ছোট্ট ব্যাপার, যে ছোট ব্যাপার থেকে তার মাঝে পরিবেশ সচেতনতা তৈরি করা। আর আরো একটা জিনিস, বাচ্চারা কিন্তু প্রাণীকুলকে খুব ভালোবাসে। এখন আমরা যদি বলি যে তুমি যে পলিথিন ব্যাগ বা প্লাস্টিক যেখানে সেখানে ফেলছো, তাতে কি হতে পারে, তাতে ভয়ঙ্কর ঘটনা ঘটছে এবং আরো ঘটে যাবে। সেই পলিথিন গুলো নদী নালার পানি বেয়ে বেয়ে সমুদ্রে পড়ছে, এবং যেতে যেতে সেইগুলো প্রাণীকুলের পেটে যাচ্ছে। সে হতে পারে হাঁস বা মাছ, বা হতে পারে সমুদ্রের বিরাট তিমি, যে বিরাট তিমি পলিথিন ব্যাগ খেয়ে খেয়ে সে মারা যাচ্ছে। আচ্ছা, ঘটনাটা সত্যি কিনা? হ্যাঁ, আসলেই সত্যি। যারা আমরা পরিবেশবাদী বা পরিবেশ নিয়ে যারা কথা বলছি, তারা আমরা জানি যে এই গত বছরে মার্চ মাসে আপনার ফিলিপিনের সমুদ্রকূলে বিরাট ওজনের এক তিমি মারা গেছে। তিমিটির পেটে ছিল 40 কেজি পলিথিন। সেই পলিথিন কোত্থেকে এলো? এই আমাদেরই অবিবেচনা আর আমাদের অন্যায্য কার্যক্রমের ফলে সমুদ্রে সেই পলিথিন গিয়ে পড়েছে। এবং আমি যখন তিমির কথা বলছি, বাচ্চাটা কিন্তু তিমির জন্য অনেক তার মায়া হবে। তো প্রাণী দিয়ে যদি আমি তার ভেতরে মায়াটা সৃষ্টি করতে পারি, তার মাঝে যদি দায়িত্ববোধটা জাগাতে পারি।
You have just about 1 minute left.
ওকে, আচ্ছা, আরেকটা জিনিস, কেন আমি বাচ্চাদের কথা বলছি, আমি লিগ্যাল একটা বাইন্ডিংস আছে যে কেন আমরা বাচ্চাদের বলবো, বাচ্চাদের কণ্ঠ শোনার কথা বলা হয়েছে, যে জিনিসটাই তার উপরে প্রভাব বিস্তার করে ওইটাতে তার কিছু বলার আছে কিনা। তো আজকে যখন আমরা পরিবেশ আন্দোলন নিয়ে এখানে আছি, আমার আবেদন হচ্ছে যে আমরা যেন আমাদের কার্যক্রমে শিশুদের ব্যাপারটা মাথায় রাখি, তাদেরকে ইনভলভ করি, এবং তাদের যে অধিকার আছে এই ব্যাপারে শুধু বাচ্চাই না, যারা চারপাশে আছেন, পলিসি মেক করছেন, নীতি নির্ধারণ করছেন, তারা যেন এটা মাথায় রাখেন, তাদের জীবনে যে প্রভাব, তাতে তার কথাটা শোনা দরকার, তাকে ইনভলভ করা দরকার। ধন্যবাদ।
Thank you so much, Dilruba Shahana. You wrapped it up quickly once I said 1 minute. But thank you so much. I really appreciated hearing your perspective. And it's right, that children are definitely going to be affected in the long term. So involving them in solutions is very important. So I think we have some questions for you here in the chat. One is, I think she's showing us environment as a subject of education item for the young generation as a storyteller. Yes, can we take this point as a recommendation to Bangladesh school subject curriculum? So what do you think? Are you making recommendations?
Yes, you know that it is very important. Thank you for the issue raised by the person. There is no scope to tell many things in this paper, but it is important to make it a subject of educational curriculum.
Okay, great, thank you. Do you have any recommendations for how that should be done?
I think we are here to to make out some recommendation. So it's not only from me. I think everybody can think and how to to incorporate this thing in education curriculum. I don't have, it's from primary level to university level, everywhere it should be. So
great, thank you so much. Do we have any other questions? So we have a question from Ahmed Badruzman asking that when you submit your full paper to elaborate on this point. So we'll look forward to that in the full paper. And I see Ahmed Hassan. Sure,
so
go ahead.
Why just children, even so the teenagers and above? Because this is something, what you have just said is extremely important. These things matter to them. And we know from Greta from Sweden and so on. So the question is, I think the entire generation needs to be far more aware of these matters. And I was very happy to see, not just the more distant climate change issues, but our near environmental issues about water, sanitation, surroundings, the PM2, if you will, the air pollution and so on. All of these things need to be very much part of the curricula, and a demand from the people and from them to the government to address these issues. What do you think?
Yes, I think it's important. And that I will try to incorporate some quiz studies. What country in the world, what country is doing what to involve children in this, in this climate change issues. I am fully agree with you. It's a broad aspect, probably the carbon emission and level of carbon emission, percentage of carbon emission. This might be a bit difficult for the children. But there is small thing, as you tell, the sanitization, and also small things which can, prevent us from, from the environmental degradation. So everything should be in the curriculum. And as you told me, as you told that why children? Yes, it's not that the children are, from the more than 26% of population in Bangladesh, and in different countries different. So this population should not be deprived from the awareness and from the facilities, and their voice must be heard by the authority and by the activists, like organization like BAPA and BEN. They also have the not right responsibility to hear their voice. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you getting us to think about whose voices are we incorporating. We're trying to expand, who we're including, and this is definitely an additional layer of something that we should think about. So we're beyond our 3 minutes for questions. I know that there were a couple other questions. We'll see if we can come back to them at the end so we make sure we get through to all of our speakers. So let's move on to our next speaker. So we have Farina Ruzaik and Mubashira Begum, right? And I think that one of you will be presenting. I see a shared screen. So if you could go ahead and introduce yourself and just very briefly where you're joining from. And again, you'll have a warning at 1 minute left and time's up as well. So thanks so much. And please do introduce yourself. Thank you.
I'm Dr. Farina Ruzaik, Senior Lecturer, University of Colombo, Department of Geography, and my Mubashira Begum is she also graduated from University of Colombo, and she is the good researcher. I think she will continue the presentation.
Great.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Am I audible? Okay.
Yes.
The title of the presentation is Socio-Economic Challenges of COVID-19 in Sri Lanka, special reference to human well-being. These are the outline of the presentation. Firstly, if we take the introduction, the COVID-19 infection began spreading in Wuhan, China city in late December 2019. The first case was reported on January 27th, 2020, Chinese woman from Hubei. The first Sri Lankan impacted person with novel coronavirus on March 11, 2020, who is a tourist guide. COVID-19 first wave was not socialized and almost limited to the western province of Sri Lanka. The recent infection outbreak commenced on 3rd October 2020 at a garment factory in the Gampaha district is considered as second wave of COVID-19. And these are the objectives, and the main objective of my this presentation is to identify the socio-economic challenges, providing more weightage to human well-being during this COVID-19 outbreak, and to recommend an applicable recovery mechanism by improving people's living standards. And these are the sub-objectives. To identify the socio-economic and health challenges of the peoples of Sri Lanka, to access to which extent the socio-economic challenges have affect people's well-being mostly, to recommend sustainable measures to upgrade the individual status, those who are vulnerable to the socio-economic challenges. And if we look at the research problem, one-to-one opposite parameters wise, managing health impacts and upgrading socioeconomic status has become a difficult task. All these parameters should be managed at the center point to maintain sustainability. The government imposed restrictions for the betterment of the people and economy of the country. This has impacted to people's well-being by way of loss of their livelihoods, poverty, unemployment, no demand for agricultural harvesting, domestic violence, student studies and physical care, etc. Hence, this study attempts to investigate the socio-economic challenges of COVID-19 and its impact on human well-being in Sri Lanka. So, if we look at the research methodology, this study predominantly collect data from secondary sources such as reports, journal articles, and relevant websites. These studies paid more attention on available information as of 20th December 2020. since it's an ongoing pandemic situation in Sri Lanka. The researcher analyzed the data and provide own opinions, applying the philosophy of interpretivism. Microsoft Excel has been used to analyze the quantitative data and drive year-to-year percentage difference based on the following formula. Result and discussion. The COVID-19 is a biological weapon shaken Sri Lankan economy and socio-economic status because of speedily spreading by human-to-human contact. No specific medicine discovered. Cause for coronavirus is still not being identified. And how long world is going to struggle with this? So the Sri Lankan government's immediate socio-economic responses are protecting health systems and related services, social protection and safety, economic recovery, protecting jobs, micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, informal economy workers, social cohesion, and community community adaptation. So the followings are considered to discuss on this section. COVID-19 pandemic in Sri Lanka. Prior to the second wave, the confirmed cases was reported as 3,374 and 13 deaths and 3,230 cured. After the second wave, 37,631 confirmed cases, 181 deaths, and 28,682 have been recovered as per the report of the epidemiology unit as of 22nd December 2020. So coronavirus not socialized during first wave, and the second wave was socialized and spread in almost every geographical locations of the island. Sri Lanka government controlled this situation, and the proper response to overcome this crisis situation was largely successful, and it is ranked among the best responsive countries in the world. So the first Sri Lanka map shows distribution of COVID-19 patients in Sri Lanka. The second one shows treatment and quarantine center for COVID-19. Economic challenges, its impact and recovery responses. First, if we take impacts, average economic growth from 2010 to 2018 is 5%. In 2019, it has been 2.3%, and 2020 September, the provisional figure is 1.3%. Almost all economic indicators recorded unfavorable figure as of third quarter of 2020 in Sri Lanka. So the following data shows the economic losses caused by COVID-19 to export, import, tourism, and other sectors during the period between October 2019 to October 2020. So this situation has given shockwave to the country's economy and the people's well-being. These data also illustrate the economical effects of Sri Lanka due to COVID-19. And the Sri Lankan government has taken the following recovery responses in order to overcome economic challenges. Social challenges and its impact. While workers in almost every sector have been affected, informal workers make up about 70% of the workforce. In 2020, poverty levels are expected to rise to 13%, up from 8.9% in 2019. This implies that more than 800 890,000 people had nearly fallen into low income category, and many of them from the poorest regions in Sri Lanka. More than 80% of households reduced the consumption of dairy products, and 85% of households reduced the consumption of meat, fish, and eggs. A study by the PLHIV and SR organization on the impact of COVID-19 on specific population found that 76.8% of respondents experienced verbal abuse, and 7.8% experienced physical, and 5.6% sexual violence. More than 70% of students, 70% of students, 68% of government institutional teachers, and 76% of non-governmental institutional teachers face data or connection issues during online teaching and learning. The pandemic has impacted religious activities, rituals, and other cultural and personal events. Also, its impact on minority ethnic groups. Conclusion and recommendation. Conclusion. This study finds out which Sri Lankans are most affected by the coronavirus infection. On that basis, the literature reviews refer to how socio-economic impacts have influenced human well-being. The following table shows physical, mental, social, and economical well-being affected peoples, the list of the peoples. The physical well-being affected peoples who are elderly, people with chronic
You have
medical
just about
condition.
1 minute left.
Yeah, thank you. So recommendation. So individual norms to rebuild COVID-19 adaptive community. These are the recommendation. The following alternative measures in economic, social, and health sectors are the recommended individual norms to rebuild COVID-19 adaptive community. Due to the time constraint, I'll just brief my presentation. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask to get clarity. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. So I really appreciate to have a sense to find out a little bit more about the effects of the pandemic in Sri Lanka. And let's see what kind of questions we get. I have some things that I'm curious about as well, but I want to leave the space for our audience. So any questions that folks can put in the chat? So I see, I'm not sure who Neil and Jay is, so we can discuss this issue in our Ben general recommendations. Let's see. So one recommendation from Neil and Jay, I'm not sure who that is, but is to have a focus also on health security, okay? But do we have any questions from the audience? Sure, Kamala Hassan Khan.
Hello. Can you listen?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. So it was Nilufar. NJ means Nilufar Jahan, my wife.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Dr. Nilufar is academic and also work with people. Anyway, I like the discussion from Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka, how they're fighting for COVID-19. And it is very important to discuss this issue in this forum, because no country has been is not isolated. Everybody's been affected, all the countries. So we have to understand, we have to put awareness how to fight this sort of pandemic. We have to aware people, and that is also responsibility of our activists. Either he's an environment activist or whatever. The Sri Lankan people, particularly the lady who speak out, she must be involved with this. And And I'm sure that there will be more issue like this. It is COVID-19 sort of things might come. There will be might be a disaster like the earthquake. A lot of things can happen. So we have to prepare everybody, and we have to go for some recommendation. What we can do, we can have a volunteers, like my recommendation. We have to have a volunteers group from the activists who can emergency volunteers like Australia have. I don't know other country. I know Bangladesh has, but I don't know. Haven't seen much mobilization. But it is important for every country, even America. They're well equipped, but people has to be organized, and the force a team should be organized to take action during this sort of pandemic when it happens. So my recommendation, our organizations who came in this conference should also aware people to fight this pandemic in future. Thank you very much for this. And I love to be in touch with this lady because not because I had been to Sri Lanka, because it is always in my mind. This is the country where I had been 1966. Thank you. I provide my email address later, and please be in touch. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Kamar Hassan Khan. Do we have any questions for the speakers? If not, I have a question, but I wanted to make sure we have the floor open to folks here first. Okay, so if we don't have another question, my question for you is, so I noticed in reading your abstract, I really appreciated the picture that you all lay out in terms of the COVID-19 situation in Sri Lanka. And towards the end, you talk about recommendations, which I think you maybe cut that part a little bit short in your presentation due to time constraints. So I want to give you the opportunity to think about, if you could elaborate, you talk about how you recommend that there be a sustainable recovery plan, and how might that, what does that, how can we see so kind of ways to address the pandemic intersect with environmental movements? Is that what you were talking about when you were talking about a sustainable recovery plan? If you could elaborate a little bit more about that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
I think I want to say something regarding that your question regarding Mubashira. Yeah, this is the thing. Sri Lanka. In Sri Lanka, now we are trying to establish the disaster resilience society. Most of the time, not only this biological disaster, the other disasters, so natural disasters also we are facing. Hello, can you hear? Hello, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, the different NGOs and government sectors, and they also try to build a disaster resilience society. Through the disaster resilience society, I think we can achieve the sustainable how we can survive with the disaster. So that sort of programs are now in Sri Lanka. So I think that is in future we can not only this pandemic. There are so many pandemics maybe occur. During the COVID, not only COVID, before that the dengue. Dengue also one of the biological disaster in Sri Lanka, and also there are so many disasters. I think this is a wide area. That's why the Mubashira just skipped some of the slides, and she wants to manage the time. So. Are you clear? You need some more information, Dr. Zaman?
That was helpful. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay.
And thank you so much for the presentation. So now we'll move on to our next speaker, Mr. Kamar Hassan Khan. Did you have slides you'd like to share with us, or will you be speaking with us
I have
directly?
a little difficulty, but you can do it. If you can share that abstract, would be really great. So I would like to say in English, but certainly I will speak in Bangla sometime, if possible, if I have a time. So I think it's a very simple English, no jargons, so they will understand. That the paper I'm presenting is about how pressing and challenging issue we are facing at the moment in this century. That is all about. It is true that warming of the climate system is unequivocal. And since the 1950s, many of the observed changes are unprecedented over the decades to millennia. The atmosphere and the ocean have warmed. Amounts of snow, ice have been diminished. Sea level has risen, and concentration of the greenhouse gases have increased. Even though the local representatives' responsiveness is important in meeting the cause of the climate change, unless government and international bodies come up with a serious climate policies that enforce local disjointed efforts will continue to fall short. In Australia, we have initiated dialogue between Bangladesh Environment Network, ICBEN, and several Australian environment organizations and political parties. We are making them aware the role of Australia plays in connection with Bangladesh that might exacerbate the climate change, namely the supply of Australian coal to Bangladesh through the India for the Rampal power plant. Almost 50%, 60% of the current Australian power generation from coal. Australia remains largest exporting countries in the world with 30% of the share. Although movements are underway to shift the economy gradually to renewable energy sources. According to new assessment by the Australian energy market operator known as AEMO, Australian aging coal-fired power plants could be shuttered earlier than expected if competition from renewable generations and carbon budgets rendered them uneconomic. The energy market operator predicts rooftop solar capacity will double or even triple, providing up to 22% of the total energy by 2040. It is saying 63% of the Australian coal-fired generation will be out of the system by 2040, and more than 30 gigawatts of large renewable energy will be needed to replace the existing thermal generations. While some of the current Morrison government continue to campaign for the new coal-fired power, AEMO is clear about the future. It says due to the already low cost of renewable and their farming options and their projected future reduction, the lowest cost of the replacement of the emission-intensive generation is a portfolio of renewable storage, gas power generation, demand the management and network resources. With the Australian energy market transitioning to the large-scale renewable energy and the distributed energy such as rooftop solar, AEMO system between 5 to 21 gigawatt dispatchable resources will be needed to support these renewables. The transition will be required more utility scale pumped hydro battery storage, demand of management and distribution batteries participating as a virtual power plants. There could be also be role of flexible gas generator if gas prices materially reduce. We feel ICBEN has an important role to play here by bringing global perspective, especially with the respect of Bangladesh to Australia activists, scientists, politicians, media, NGOs, and industry. We have already embarked on making connection with the above mentioned parties. One of the outcomes of the interaction is a greater understanding of safeguarding the indigenous land. We feel that such grassroots communication across the world involving the Bangladesh diaspora with local communication would be quite a way helping the climate cause. With the above perspective in mind, more effort is required by the environment activists in Bangladesh in building international connections. The This will provide the goal of community with the knowledge of climate peril that Bangladesh faces. This is not one-way street. However, for successful environmental Bangladeshi activists should be knowledgeable of urgent global issues, whether it is the fight for the renewable energy or safeguarding the Sundarban or indigenous people right and to their lands or local efforts to clean up rivers from pollution across the world. So these are my presentation. I just try to raise three issues of our experience. I want to say 2-3 words. Maybe I have 1-2 minutes time. We are working together with Australians, like a lifting coal. They're having big project, Adani project, Australia's largest coal project, which is they intended to export from here to India, and India will redirect the ship to Bangladesh for Rampal, which will greatly affect Bangladesh, Sundarban. You know, you might be aware that this supposed to be in India, but India tactically changed the place and built it in Bangladesh. The work is going on and government is not listening to us. So these are few issues that Bangladesh cannot resolve until unless we have people behind us. And I can let you know, the Australian activists are with us. So in that context, I can tell you that until unless we have integrity with the international community, we cannot achieve anything, not anything at all. So when I came to Australia, I took a priority task to get connected with the international community, environmentalists, social justice people who fight together, work together, and we make it. Only one instance I will finish my words, that the climate change advisor of the Australian government who participated in the last conference, international conference, we met him and I took a scientist with me and we give him a papers why Bangladesh is dangerous to raise this issue there in the forum. I told them I'm Australian, Bangladeshi Australian, and it is my right to raise the issue internationally. And you will be happy to know that the gentleman, Justin Lee, he was the ambassador in Bangladesh. I had a good connection, still I have a good connection. He raised this issue internationally, and people became surprised how the Bangladeshi issue, he brought it in the forum. So that is how it works. So we need to do that. And you might have heard about there's a lot of speeches for indigenous community, 85 years old, Gary will be speaking, and how they fought and fighting to save their motherland, the climate. And it is also experience good for indigenous, and I am trying to get connected with each other so they can work together. So I want to finish now, and thank you very much for listening. If you have any question, I can answer. Otherwise, I will come to you again, even if needed. With the help of Aishna, I will organize another program to share experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kamal Hassan Khan. You know, the title of your talk, Tackling Local Issues with a Global Perspective, is so important. And I think also your work shows how you're doing that, right? It's not just a talk that you're giving or a paper that you're presenting, you're doing this work. And I very much appreciate that. So thank you. Do we have any questions from our audience here? Folks can either put the questions in the chat or go ahead and raise your hand and we can call on you. Any questions for